If this video has come up in a search because you want to find out is the 5 Series better than the A6 or is the A6 better than the 5 Series, it's a very difficult question for me to answer because they're both very good. But as you can see, there isn't a 5 Series here to defend itself. So today it's all about the gorgeous Audi A6. It is quite the car though. It's good enough to transport executives, government ministers, world leaders, your daughter and your son in the back for football training, because the back of the A6 foot area is absolutely massive. It's like every time I open the door of this car and my 5-year-old jumps in, I feel like, am I your chauffeur or something? The car does, in this black, Mythos black with the chrome trim, does have a bit of a classy chauffeur look about it. I'm missing the hat though. Anyway, more about the interior in a few minutes, but this goes neck and neck with the 5 Series every other time. Yes, there's other models, yes, there's the E-Class, yes, there's the Volvo S60, but there's something so classy about the A6. This is a petrol one, just shy of 300 brake horsepower. It's a plug-in hybrid. On the back you get 50 TFSIe for the hybrid bit, with a nice Quattro badge because it's got Quattro. Now, because this car is a PHEV, it's got batteries. It definitely affects the depth of the boot, but Audi promise there's still 400 plus litres in this, and you'll be able to fit things in this way, just not necessarily that way. And there's still some storage nets and little pockets and 12 volts and tethering hooks, and you'll also find a nice Audi bag with this in it, a Type 2 cable that will get you somewhere between 35 and 45 kilometers if you charge it at home. Don't block a public charger, because this car will charge at about 3.6 kilowatts no matter what you plug it into, and you might get shot for doing that. But yeah, when you plug it in at home, you're going to get about 40 kilometers, and that means if you charge it religiously every day, even though it's a 2-litre petrol with 300 brake horsepower, you'll be able to charge it for less than the price of an Americano. And that means you'll be able to drive in and out of work, providing you have a 20-kilometer trip each way. They're about 40 in total. For less than a tenner, you'll be able to run this car every single week if you charge it at home, or even better, in work, and let somebody else pay for it. The little Quattro badge here is the only real telltale sign that this isn't quite a normal A6. Anyway, let's jump in up front to give you a bit of a flavour of what this car is like. In this particular petrol hybrid S-Line version of it, well, it starts with a 7, put it that way. If you go for the S-Line Quattro PHEV full fat version of this car, everything you see on this car today is standard, apart from the privacy glass at the back. And that's only a couple of £100. Why they couldn't have thrown it in for free, don't ask me. Inside the A6, you're getting the classiest interior you can get in a luxury executive saloon. I love the BMW too, but I think this just quite pips it. They're both lovely places to sit. This S-Line steering wheel is massive, possibly even a bit too big. This car has an interactive accelerator. What the hell is that? Well, when it knows you don't need to be using quite the beans you're giving it, it'll give you a little nudge under your foot to say, hey, take your foot off. We'll save some fuel here together. And it works quite well. In fact, so well that I haven't turned it off. And if something like that really annoyed me, I wouldn't be able to deal with it. All the glass haptics that you'll get in an Audi in 2020 and 2021 are all included. The way this is all put together, the stitching, the virtual cockpit, the MMI, it's wonderful. It works so well. There's loads of storage, big huge armrests, bit of sliding on that, drinks holders and charging points down here. Couple of things, bit weird that at this price you don't get a standard reverse camera, you just get normal sensors. We ain't got no blind spot going on here. The door bins pretty big because they'll take a full 1.5 litre, and the seats are just standard S-Line, but by standard I mean good. This is obviously where you'll sit if you're buying this car. and it really is wonderful. It's just so good. Now, wait till you see how much room is in the back of this car. Leg room. Oh yes, come with me. You can set it up, by the way, that when you're charging it at night, you can, if you have a night meter, you can set it in the MMI that it'll only come on at certain times and stay off at others and all that stuff. Now the back of this car, no wonder people who are VIPs can be brought around in an A6, because the back of it is really, really good. Do you need an A8 anymore? I don't know, lads. Keep watching, by the way, because when we go for a spin in a few minutes, the Matrix headlights, oh man, they're so good. I'll display very, very soon. Right, so in here, strictly not a two-person in the back. There's loads of room for a middle person, but that tunnel is significant. There's no USB charging. There is a 12 volt, however. For me, when you get into a car and there's climate control for the rear passengers, I just think, oh, that's posh. Yeah. As you can see, there's loads. Like, I have to stretch to even, I can't, like, there's just so much. And that driver's seat isn't that far forward either. Same with the headspace, there's loads of it. Everything is just correctly adjusted, and little air vents here for passengers, and there's hooks for those all important suit jackets if you are an executive driving this car. There's an armrest that comes down, you can store things in here, and that's all good. And yeah, the view out is good. You could nearly put trays in the back of those seats for a laptop, and then you really would have the ultimate car for getting VIPs around in. But it's very hard to knock it. It's just, yeah, the transmission floor is big, but everything else, spot on. Okay, so we're in EV mode at the moment, and it's just like driving an actual EV. The noise outside probably isn't as loud to warn people that you're about to cream them, but it's very smooth, it's very quiet. And even like in terms of the outside world, yeah, you can hear a bit, but nothing major. And then if you get a gap in the traffic, all the torque that this car has means you can just go. You're not hanging around for anybody, wait until Christmas. So I'm doing a typical rat run from one part of Colester, Clontarf to the other, and I'm driving through quite a narrow road. I'm in EV mode. The car is easy to get past. It is quite a wide car. Still no problems between you and other cars. If a cyclist just randomly pulls out in front of you like your man just did, there's collision avoidance in the car that will stop that happening. So between a driver who's alert and this Audi, they should get to see their granny at Christmas. Now, the pull-away torque, that is a big selling point, because you just get out of things quickly. There's no hesitancy. The Quattro obviously adds really great levels of grip, so it's going to be a very usable car in all surroundings. Now, look, you can get a 2-litre diesel A6, you can get a 150 brake horsepower A6, and that will do the job beautifully, and it will in many ways look the exact same on the inside and outside. But you might want to be in the space of PHEV, you might want to jump into a petrol, you might just prefer the refinement of the engine, all those things. They're all reasons as to why this car is a really good PHEV option. The range is not massive though. I would like to see that a little bit better. When I got the car and it was fully charged, it said the range was about 45 kilometers. Now every night since I've charged it, it's high 30s, and maybe that's just because of my driving style, and it takes that into account, and it chucks out a range of 38, 40 kilometers. It doesn't quite give you that full range either, so if you're using it on the motorway or whatever, it will reduce quicker. But where it really does come into its own, high-powered petrol engines hate start-start traffic, and this is where a car like this will save you a ton on fuel, because you'll just be sitting there in EV mode not a care in the world. And it's actually a much more comfortable way of driving in heavier traffic. Now, there is all sorts of trickery that you can get with the Audi, where with certain packs you'll be able to make the car start and stop with an automatic gearbox and keep up with the traffic. So that's one less thing again for you as a driver to do. Even on these 19-inch alloy wheels with the S-line setup, it's firm but not overly firm. It's all right, like, you know. It also contributes to the really great handling, and that's again another part of this car that you have to factor in. The fact that you can get it in quattro with all that grip and all that handling, not a top heavy nose because it hasn't got a diesel engine sitting up front. There's loads of things apart from the price that you have to consider if you'd like to get one of these. And then if you ever do get a break in the traffic, even if you floor it in EV mode, if there's enough range, the petrol engine doesn't come on. And that's very impressive. It has enough of its own steam to not bother the petrol. That's impressive too, because a lot of cars, particularly plug-in hybrids, they just don't have enough power to move them. This is not a small car. But if you do get a break in the traffic, okay, really flooring it there, the petrol engine did come on a little bit. But again, as soon as it got up to change gear and drop down, it's like back to EV again. Man, the handling's good. For a big heavy saloon, this will play ball with you if you fancy a bit of B-road fun, bends. It's good for it, it's good for it. Petrol engine on its own seems to hold about 600-ish kilometers worth of juice as well, so you're never going to be stuck looking for a charger. So I know there's a few bumps here. There's none of that sort of thud you get when you go over a bump in a car with bigger wheels, and it's just a bit floaty. It seems to get that balance really, really perfect. So is this car still as good as all the other executive saloons? I'm going to hedge my bets here and say absolutely. And the fact that it's into the PHEV space as well just gives you more options. It mightn't be for you. A normal, less expensive A6 might be more than what you need, and that's fine too. But as a cheap to run car, the road tax is 170 quid or something on it. It certainly does that end of things very well. Getting into it, that's a little bit more expensive, fair enough.
Also standard on the A6 PHEV are Audi's matrix headlights. How it works is the system applies full power to the beam and creates a spread of light noticeably brighter than even xenon headlights. But what's more intelligent is the sensors within the headlights that can tell when a vehicle is oncoming. And as you should be able to see in the video here, you'll see the light move on towards trees and darker patches on the road, and it really does spread an impressive array of light ahead. An expensive option, but if they come as standard, well, they're pretty cool.
If you do happen then to get a break in the traffic, oh, she's lively. Very, very lively. That is a quick 0 to 60. And it sounds good. Not overly loud, but you know, there's a bit of grunt out of it. You've got S mode that you can use, and then normal D mode, and then e-tron mode. I always thought until a few months ago that e-tron was just one particular type of car Audi make, but it's actually just their EV drivetrains, and e-tron can be applied to anything. So maybe you didn't know that either. Anyway, you'll see e-tron pop up on the screen sometimes on this. Overall though, it's a really smooth, really refined executive saloon. As I said at the start of the video, it's so difficult to pick this, the E-Class, or the 5 Series, even probably the Jaguar. It's all down to personal preferences really, because they're all very good. I just have a serious soft spot for the inside of an Audi these days, and externally too. They are making phenomenally good looking cars. I think we will look back and think of this generation of Audis as some of the best looking they've ever made. So they're the little preferential things that you might just prefer this over something else, or vice versa. I do really appreciate you sticking with me this far in the video. Maybe share it with someone who might be interested in one of these cars, or do comment. Comments are deadly. If you've got comments, just chat about the car, ask a question, or talk to other A6 owners in the comments below. Please do. Who said executive saloons couldn't be fun and engaging to drive? Well, not this one anyway. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.
We've also got a Nobby on Cars merch shop now launched, and if you'd like to buy a mug or a water bottle for Christmas, or maybe you'd even like to splash out on a hoodie or a t-shirt, in the description below you'll find links to the store.